Welcome back to Steelers Training Camp here at St. Vincent College. Matt, we were talking last segment about the inside linebackers a little bit. We're going to switch it up now to the wide receiver room, which is an interesting one. You know that Antonio Brown is Antonio Brown. You know Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be the number 2.
Sure.
Surprised we only saw James Washington get 4 targets in the game. I thought they would maybe try to feature him a little bit more. And the interesting thing is Mason Rudolph talked after the game about maybe I need to look his way a little bit more.
Although when the guy jumped off sides, I bet for sure he was going, "Where's James?"
Yeah, well, there's no doubt about it.
Throwing it that way, right?
And that was a nice thing to see. I mean, he just went up and got it. That's something that you did not see a lot of out of Martavis Bryant last year.
No.
Go up and win the jump ball type situations. But I'm looking here at the targets for the receivers. You had Damon Patterson with 10. That led the team by far. Then
he was kind of the MVP of the day, basically.
Yeah,
right.
Washington had 4. Marcus Tucker, I thought, had a nice game, both catching the ball and especially on special teams. First 2 big special teams plays. He was the first guy down there making the play. That bodes well for that young man.
Yeah. Like when we talked about DHB maybe not being a guarantee, maybe Hunter isn't either, and those 2 young men are making a case, and Tucker has now for a couple of years. They're really familiar with him.
Yeah, I like him a lot. He's a shorter. He's 5'10", but he is thick.
He is thick.
He's built more like James Washington than he is, Justin Hunter. He's a thick,
not as long-limbed, but thick like that.
Yeah,
right.
He's a thicker receiver.
But he can be a gunner for you.
Yeah. Oh, there's no doubt, and I think he showed that in a big way in the game.
Like Hunter can't do anything except run outside the numbers.
Right. The only problem is you're vertically challenged a little bit with
a pretty small group overall.
You get a small group overall, so somebody needs to be that bigger receiver. You start looking. Justin Hunter got 1 catch for 4 yards. He had 1 target, and then Tevin Jones had 1 target. Bad drop.
Real bad drop
for a guy who had really been.
He made a name for himself here, though.
Really been looking good the past week. It's funny because Damon Patterson looked like a stud early in camp. He was catching everything.
Yeah, right.
And the first week of camp, and then he dropped a deep ball last Wednesday, 2 Wednesdays ago now. And he kind of struggled after that. I think it stuck in his head a little bit.
Probably.
And that was when Tevin Jones started really pushing. That he was making a lot of plays, and they had I forget what day it is now. They're all running together, but they ran a 2-minute drill to end the practice, and I think it was with Roethlisberger as well. And I think Roethlisberger had 5 completions moving down the field, and 3 of them were to Jones. You're going, okay, 14 looks,
like
making some plays.
In the mix,
yeah, he's making some plays, and he continued to have strong showings like that, and then just that. I mean, that's a wide open. That's as wide open as you get in the NFL on 3rd down.
You wonder how the coaches look at that the next day. Like, my hunch is he has enough in the bank that. Okay, that's 1 bad drop. You never forget it, but okay, let's put him back out there.
Tomlin puts a lot of emphasis on what happens in stadiums, and that's your only chance.
I know
that was your only chance.
Imagine how he probably didn't sleep that night.
There's no doubt. Yeah,
I've been playing well.
He probably goes for a first down. It was a little short of the sticks, but he had momentum. Running to the middle on a little inside slant, and bad drop for him. But we saw Patterson,
Jones, Patterson, Tucker. It would be a shame to lose any of those guys.
Yeah, I think so.
In my opinion, including the practice squad. And I don't know that any of them get scooped up from the Ravens or the Bills or the Cowboys, but they might. And I do think all 3 of them have a case to push Hunter and Hayward Bay. So, to me, it seems like there's 3 receivers that are in real good shape, of course, and then some interesting stuff.
Yeah,
I always lean towards the young guys.
It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Again, I thought Tucker had a strong game on special teams in addition to making some plays in the passing game.
You consider him a pure slot, though, when he's on offense, though, don't you?
Largely, but I think if you had to, you could play him outside because I think because of his, again, he's not real tall. He's not real tall, but I think he can be physical.
Kind of a Golden Tate feel about him.
Yeah, you see that. You see that if you can play special teams, you can be an outside gunner. You could probably play outside the numbers.
You probably can get on press coverage.
Yeah,
that's really what I'm sitting here thinking is how's he doing against press coverage. But if you're a gunner with 2 guys pressing you,
and you're still getting down the field,
right?
Press coverage probably not that big of a deal
for
you.
You probably can handle
it.
Yeah.
But Patterson was again, he had been a guy that struggled. This is a guy who made the team in the rookie minicamp. He was an invited tryout. for that weekend.
Right.
He had no guaranteed spot on the roster. He came in, he tried out, he made a couple of plays.
He wasn't even a preferred undrafted free agent.
Right.
Like for people who don't know, you draft guys,
and they're everybody in the league signs 10 to 15 guys.
Oh yeah,
and nobody signed him.
And it's a free for all. I mean, it's a
You're
battle
talking,
to get those guys.
Yeah, there are 300 to 400 guys who got signed that night after the draft, and he was not one of those guys.
By like the 5th round, you're calling those guys. I always tell a story about how I got Josh Cribbs. I did that firsthand. Every team gets a couple spots. Like that year, we had 3 receivers. Matt, here's $10,000. Get 3 receivers. So that's kind of what they do. And this guy wasn't even in that mix for 32 teams. And obviously he played at a small school. But correct me if I'm wrong. At least I read this somewhere or heard it somewhere. He even played special teams in college.
Yeah, he had 8.
School.
He had 8 tackles last year on special teams at Youngstown State. The interesting
he wants to play special.
Yeah, the interesting thing about this kid is he actually started at Utah State.
Right.
He was an invited walk-on at Utah State and started 3 games as a true freshman.
Wow, I didn't realize that.
At Utah State, so there's some talent there. Mm-hmm. But then he's from Apoca, Florida, however you say it. Mm-hmm. I'm not even sure how you say it. But going from there to Utah State was a little difficult.
The Youngstown State, then to the Steelers.
Well, there was a community college in there as well in Kansas. Okay. He went to Highland Community College after the.
It's a well-known one.
After the
JC,
year, he went home after the first semester at Utah State. Spent the
I think he's a fish out of water.
Spent that off season waiting. Went to Highland Community College in Kansas. Bo Pelini and the coaching staff at Youngstown State found him. Mm-hmm. He ends up being a key contributor for them. 2 years ago in their run to the national championship game, I think he averaged 24 yards a catch for them that year, and then I think he was their number 3 receiver that year. And then last year steps into a starting role, 32 catches, averages like 17 yards a catch. At Youngstown State, and this is a program.
But that's the numbers you want to see if he's going to be an NFL consideration.
Right. But also played special teams.
Right.
And this is a program at Youngstown State that's producing some talent. They put some guys, Derek Rivers, and
they win a lot of games,
and
too.
Moss, the other outside linebacker, and so they've put some guys in the NFL. So it's not a stretch to think that this guy could make it. The only thing I thought, 6 catches, 77 yards, a touchdown, and the touchdown was fantastic. You'd like to see him
dance out of the flip after.
The standing backflip. You'd like to see him on the interception that Dobbs threw, come back to the ball a little bit more, maybe.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Dobbs stared him down a little bit, so I put the interception's on the quarterback, but you'd like to see the receiver at least come back and maybe try to break that up a little bit.
Yeah, good point. I just want to mention one thing to people too: the junior college route. Like there's 5, 6, 7, 8 of them in Kansas. That's like their own league, and everyone kind of pays attention to there. That's a great route to go.
Studs, yeah.
It's a good group. Yeah, a lot of NFL talent has come out of there.
By the way, Aaron Rodgers went to a junior college, so it's not like it's the end of the world.
I mean, some people go there because grades or massive off-the-field problems. They'll take anybody.
If you're a kid he wasn't recruited, he had no offers.
Right.
None. He told me he didn't have
a
single offer coming out of high school. The only reason Utah State saw him, they came in to look at one of his teammates. Mm-hmm. And they saw him and say, "Hey, you can come walk on for us." And that was his only.
Walked on at Utah State. Yeah. It wasn't Notre Dame either.
Right. That was his only. I'm sure he probably could have gone to D2 level or something like that. But
my hunch is he goes to Utah State. It's like, this is not home. This is what am I doing here? But then you go play highly competitive junior college where a lot of eyes will be on you. Those coaches have great relationship with recruiters all across the country, and then you get some eyes on you. It doesn't mean he was a bad dude or couldn't make it there.
Yeah, he is a kid though that he's 23. He has 2 children already, another one on the way. So there's some incentive there for him to make this roster. I talked to him about that, and you can check that story out on DKPittsburghSports.com. Shameless plug. That's the only one you're going to hear from me. But good young man. Actually, he played football at Youngstown State with a kid that I coached, an inside linebacker for the middle linebacker. I coached a kid in football. I coached him in basketball, and I coached him in baseball.
Oh, wow.
And he was a really good kid from Wash High, Jalen Kelly. And so we talked a little bit about that the other day, and I talked to, just chatted with the young man and learned a little bit about his background and life.
That's cool.
And,
easy one to root for, obviously.
You can root for guys like that. This is the true underdog story in the NFL. When you make a team, Terrence Garvin did this a couple years ago. Terrence Garvin was an invited walk-on into their invited tryout. Invited him for the tryout for the rookie camp. Does well in the tryout. He played safety at
Where did he go?
West Virginia.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He played safety at West Virginia. The Steelers start looking at him as a linebacker. I think when he showed up for them the first year, he's like 6'3", 225.
Mm-hmm.
But he can run. He's kind of a little bit like Matthew Thomas.
Yeah. Body type wise.
Yeah.
Right.
So he makes an impression, makes the team, and sticks around with the Steelers for a few years. And last I checked, he was still in the league. I mean,
I think so.
You're talking about a guy that's carved out a 6 or 7 year career now in the NFL, and was not drafted and not even offered a contract coming out of the draft.
Yeah, think about that. I mean, if you're one of those two dudes, you had to basically beat out everyone at the tryout. They're only bringing a couple of those guys to camp, and then you got to beat out all these dudes at camp too. Another 90-some people. That's quite the road.
Yeah,
that's quite the uphill climb.
And the other interesting thing about Damone Patterson, just to finish up on him, his 40 time measured in. He came in at 4.5. Okay. He told me that he's 6'1", 190 pounds. So he thought that he needed to maybe bulk up a little bit before his 40 time.
So he said the whole combine type of
he said
right.
I said I knew I was fast,
mm-hmm.
so I wanted to focus on putting some weight on because people look at you when you're in that kind of situation. People look at you and say you're gonna have to play special teams.
Yeah, right.
So I want to put on a little bit of weight, and it's probably slowed down my 40 time a little bit. He said I'm more of like a 4.3 something guy.
Okay.
And he is
a lot of people say that.
But we keep seeing him get behind the defenders here. He certainly looks much faster than a 4.5 guy.
Yeah, he's not speed deficient.
No,
I mean I think that's pretty clear. And putting on weight probably was a good move because if you go in there looking at him and he's 6'1", 175.
Yeah.
Sorry, son. I mean,
who was there was a guy from the Eagles back in the
Pinkston.
Yeah. Pinkston for years. He was 6'1", 6'2", 175 pounds, and he just
dripping wet.
Yeah,
I mean he was.
And he just couldn't stay healthy because he had talent.
Oh, for
sure.
But
you're going to really have to shine to be
he may
that
have been
thin.
a first-round pick. He was an early
second.
pick.
I think he was a second. But that's size.
But he wasn't an undrafted camp invite guy. He was pretty darn good. He had a pedigree at least. But yeah, that's a really rough way to stay in the league.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting to see how that wide receiver room continues to progress. Of course, Eli Rogers still in the mix as well. We haven't talked much about him, but at some point he will be activated. Maybe.
Do you have a hunch on that one?
I'm guessing maybe they give him the 4th preseason game.
Okay.
They activate him maybe sometime after this Green Bay game. Give him a week to get acclimated to what he's doing.
Could he be a pup guy?
He could be.
Just so you get another 6 weeks out of him to evaluate.
And that would be if they feel like that's the situation. Maybe they want to. Maybe they feel like they want to take a look at some of these young receivers for the first 6 weeks of the season. That gives them an opportunity to do that while also having
know who Eli is.
have Eli Rogers in your hip pocket, knowing what he is.
That might be the move.
Yeah, and that gives you some flexibility there with your roster.
You can kind of massage the roster a little bit, give yourself more time to evaluate. One of these younger dudes, Tucker or whomever, in your camp against legit guys, 53 people. And really pay attention to him and say, we shouldn't have kept him. Or, boy, he's really too good. We know what Eli is. Sorry, Eli, you got your 6 weeks of pup, and you're on your way.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll see how that works out. Matt, we just handled the receiver group. Let's talk about the running backs next.
Yes, that's the one I really want to talk about.
Yeah, let's do that. So he is Matt Williamson. I'm Dale Lolley. We're going to talk about the Steelers running backs and their performances in that game on Thursday night in Philadelphia. Next, you're listening to Steelers Nation Radio.